Hello everybody and welcome back. My name is Kari and today I'm doing my July wrap-up. I read a lot of books in July. I'll tell you when I count them at the end because I never think of that before I start the video. A lot of books. Most of them were on audiobook, so I will insert picture on the screen. I apologize to my future editing self because the present self knows that I'm gonna hate that, but I don't have them physically. So let's get into it. The first book I finished was Slay by Brittany Morris. I did read most of this in June, but I technically finished it on the 1st of July, hence the reason it's in my July wrap-up. This is a story about a young black woman who creates this game where black people can be themselves and celebrate their culture and their heritage, or find their heritage and just everything that has been taken from them that was not very nice. But this game is amazing and it is super cool. It's a role-playing game, incredibly well developed. I gave this book, what did I give this book? I gave it 4.5 out of 5. Some of it was a little fast. Some of the scenes were a little fast. Some of the subplots, I guess, were a little fast. There were parts that could have been drawn out or explained a little bit better. Mostly the stuff outside of the game, because the stuff inside the game and the immediate adjacent parts of the game were amazing and so incredibly well thought out that it was fantastic. Loved it. If you have not read this book and you are even remotely into gaming, or even if you're not, because I have touched exactly 2 video games in my life and failed both of them miserably, this book is amazing. Go read it now. I also don't do RPGs. I've never played those in my life, so if you like them, you'll understand what's going on. If you don't know them or really like them, you'll enjoy it anyway. But this book was amazing. I did read that one physically, I just don't have it because I lent it to a friend. And I read The Maze of Bones by Rick Riordan on audiobook, which is the first book in the 39 Clues series. This is, let's see. Oh yes, so Grace Cahill, right before she dies, changes her will and people start freaking out. I thought this was just a really fun mystery. It's a bit Knives Out in its feel, so if you like Knives Out, I think you'll really enjoy this one. Then read Gregor the Overlander by Suzanne Collins. This was odd. There's an underland, and so Gregor and his sister fall into it through their laundry room, basically, and go on an adventure with cockroaches and other weird creatures. It was a fun middle grade adventure. I don't know that it was my favorite, so I think I gave it 3 stars. There we go. Then we have a physical book that I read, which is exciting, and that is The Fiery Cross by Danny Gabaldon. I liked this one better than Drums of Autumn. That's what's the 3rd one. But this one was still just, it was so much. It was so much. I think I gave this one 3 stars because 3 stars. I'm really struggling to keep going with this series. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Too much happens to this family. They are involved in too many dramatic things. These books are too damn long at this point, and it's good, it's well researched, but at this point, that's one of the few things I enjoy about them anymore. But I will finish the series. I'm just a masochist that way. Next, I listened to Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel at the recommendation of a colleague. This one I also gave 3 stars. Again, very well researched, and it, for me, would probably have been better if I hadn't listened to it on audiobook and had physically read it. However, even with that, because I know a fair bit about the Tudors and the people around them, I could catch all of the information that I needed to, and if I missed a sentence or 2, it wasn't a big deal. But it also didn't keep my attention. It just was boring. And I know that people absolutely love Wolf Hall, and I have seen the TV show. I watched that a while ago before I knew it was a book. That was boring too, and dark. Not metaphorically dark, I mean medieval Renaissance times are just dark in general, but cinematically dark. They could have done with a couple extra candles. I know it was the 16th century, but come on, they had daylight and candles and fireplaces, even if it was Britain and therefore they have 3 days of sun. I don't know. But the book was just a little dull. a lot dull, actually. Then I read Midnight on the Moon, Sunset of the Sabertooth, Pirates Past Noon, Dinosaurs Before Dark, Afternoon on the Amazon, Mummies in the Morning, Night at Dawn, Night of the Ninjas, Dingoes at Dinner Time, Twister on Tuesday, Revolutionary War on Wednesday, Civil War on Sunday, Earthquake in the Early Morning, Tonight on the Titanic, Tigers at Twilight, and Buffalo Before Breakfast. Yes. All by Mary Pope Osborne. Those are... Okay. Sorry, there's a lot of them. I have to make sure. Okay. They're all part of the Magic Treehouse series, and on Libby, at least through my library, they have sets of 8 at a time. And so I listened to, I guess it would have been 9 through 16 last month, and then I listened to 1 through 8 and 17 through 24 this month. Hence the really long list of titles. Basically, on average, I gave them 3 stars. I think I really like the way Osborne wraps up each 4-book arc in the first 24 books. I enjoy watching Annie kind of come into her own with the more animal-oriented books. I enjoy the ones that tend to go more into history and other cultures. The Buffalo one, Buffalo Before Breakfast, that sounds right. Talks a little bit about Lakota culture out on the Great Plains in the States. But a lot of them are just very superficial, and I recognize that part of this for me is going to be rereading them as a 27-year-old as opposed to, you know, a 7 or 8-year-old who doesn't know anything. I think they're a great introduction into history, but I do think that even for 7 or 8-year-olds, they're incredibly superficial. And that depends on the book. There are some that I gave 4 stars, I think 2 or 3, because they actually went into a little bit more and they talked about it more. But a lot of them are just sort of, here's a gloss over the surface, and that's not what I'm looking for. Next, I read A Song Below Water by Bethany C. Morrow. This is a book about black mermaids and, well, yeah. It's amazing. It's very short. It's about 300 pages. I want to say it's like 286 or something. Hey, nailed it. 286. And they're not underwater at any point. So if you are going into this thinking that they are underwater because of the cover, as I was, they're not. The cover is beautiful and it's not misleading. This makes sense when you get through the book. But they're not underwater at any point. Very important. I really loved the subplot that was the romance, because it was basically just sort of there. It didn't come in until like halfway through the book. And I love, 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 love the sister aspect of this. These 2 friends live together and they're more like sisters, and I loved, adored watching their relationship grow and change, and these 2 support each other in the way that they knew the other needed, as opposed to the stereotypical just pat on the back, bring you some chocolate kind of a way. Not to say that that's a bad thing, that's what works for some people, but I liked seeing a different way of comforting. So that was really fun. I think they did a really good job. I liked how they incorporated, Bethany Morrow incorporated Renfest in here as well. I thought that was really fun. So gave it, I think, 5 stars. Definitely check it out. Then I read The Year of Less by Kate Flanders on audiobook. This is a nonfiction, it's about 6 hours, about a young woman who had $30,000 worth of consumer credit debt when she was 29, and that was sort of that slap in the face that she needed to realize, I can't keep doing this. And so she cut back her spending drastically, went on a shopping ban, paid it back within, I think, 2 years, she said, and ended up basically getting to the point where she was comfortable and had started saving for retirement pretty well and everything like that within 5 to 10 years. Absolutely adored it. It also really made me look at my own spending and my own monetary habits, and I will be discussing that in an upcoming video, but it was really nice and not at all accusatory or my way or the highway, kind of a nonfiction self-help book. So I loved that. I gave it 4 stars. I gave it 4 stars because she was a little bit repetitive, and by a little bit I mean she repeated herself a lot on a couple of points, and that always drives me nuts. Read Cinders by Marissa Meyer, which is the first in the Lunar Chronicles. Red Cinder Still really liked it. I gave it 4 out of 5. It's a really fun Cinderella retelling. Love that aspect of it. And I will be continuing with the story. I just got Scarlet. Then I read The Hand on the Wall, which is the third in the Truly Devious series by Maureen Johnson. I think I gave this 3.5. It's a fun wrap-up. I think this series pretty easily could have been a duology. This third one just struck me as a little bit overlong. Then I read Once More Upon a Time by Roshni Chokshi, which is an Audible exclusive, but it is a fairy tale retelling. And I really like fairy tale retellings, and I like Roshni Chokshi, so I went and bought it, pre-ordered it before it came out. And it came out, and I kept forgetting because I don't use Audible anymore, and then I remembered, and I got so excited, and I read it, and it was totally worth it. 5 out of 5. It is a fantastic retelling. Love the way it plays with the tropes. It's amazing. Go check it out. So the first one is The Children of Henry VIII by Alison Weir. In case you haven't noticed, I have not followed my TBR basically at all. I don't know why. Part of it was just July was a really weird month. I was going to do the reading rush. Disclaimer, do not condone any of the steps they took this year. They were really out of touch with Juneteenth and the outside in a pandemic. Yes, there are ways to social distance, but they had months to figure that out after the pandemic came out and shouldn't have. I didn't even know there was a group book until the whole they didn't read it and then laughed about it thing came out. Also insensitive as hell. So I didn't end up participating, not because of any of those, mostly because I didn't, in my own very, very privileged bubble that I fully recognize and am working on, I did not recognize any of those issues before they were brought to my attention. That is my failing, again, working on it. I just didn't end up doing it because it was a really busy week, and then I don't really know. My life just kind of went in a direction I didn't anticipate. Not like a bad one, just like a I don't want to read this week kind of a thing. But anyway, speaking of not following TBRs, which is where I was going before that, I didn't, and I just really wanted something about Elizabeth, so I ended up reading this. This follows Edward, Elizabeth, Mary, and Jane Grey. Technically, Jane Grey isn't the child of Henry VIII, she's the niece? Cousin? They're related somehow. I don't really remember how, though. Yes, I do. Great niece. She's Henry's youngest sister's granddaughter. The youngest sister who was married to Charles Brandon, who was played by Henry Cavill in The Tudors. There we go. Anyway, gave this a 5 out of 5. Or 4 out of 5. It's really well researched. It's pretty short. It's a little dense to get through sometimes, but her writing is amazing and I absolutely love it. So learning more about Elizabeth was fantastic. It might have been 5 out of 5, but I'm not going to check. Then I reread Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I am working on a reread of these because I have these cute little miniature editions where they highlight different names in different colored ink. And naturally I walked, like, oh, there we go. Not that you'll be able to see it, but they highlight Selena in purple in this book, which is super fun. Reread it, I gave it 4 stars still. These books are just really fun. There are a lot of problems. There's a lot of stereotypical elements to this as far as sexism and feminism go. So it's not an unproblematic book by any means. However, I do really enjoy this book because in part I acknowledge it and it's nice to know that I can pick out parts that are not great. But also it's just an assassin story and they're great. I love them. And then the last books are some books that were actually on my August TBR because I didn't know if I'd be able to get to them in July. I did. Those are 6 of the Bear Grylls Adventures books. Blizzard Challenge, Desert, Sea, River, Earthquake, and Volcano. There are 6 more that my cousin doesn't have, but I read these because he asked me to read them. I was very excited. So I did. On average, I gave them 3 stars. There were a couple that got 2. They don't ever explain the magical compass thing that takes them from where they are, and that drives me nuts. They are very superficial. Sometimes they have good themes. The Blizzard one is, you know, teamwork. They've got one, the Sea Challenge, don't litter. very good things, and I like that they have actual real life survival tips, because if you decide to go adventuring and end up in any of these circumstances, then you know what to do, basically. I appreciated that. I just thought they were, again, oversimplified. These books are 100-some pages, and for chapter books, they're decent chapter books. They are by no means particularly well written. Bear Grylls is not a writer. I mean, he is by virtue of having written these, but not a great writer. I would maybe go so far as to say not a good writer, but they're boring and repetitive. I think these books would have done much better as graphic novels, actually, because there are already pictures in them, like that. And they have a couple of pictures in various books where they tell you step by step what they're doing, like tying a rope. These are the pictures to get there. But they don't, I don't know, I think they would have been much better in graphic novels because you can get a lot more across in pictures than you can in words. And these would have been much more in-depth and much more helpful had they not been entirely words. So that's my take on them. However, I read them. He's happy. There are 6 more he wants, so I'll read those when we get them as well. Those are all of the books. I will insert the number of however many I read somewhere in here because I'm not counting them right now. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed. If you've read any, let me know, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!